Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. We're excited to have you here for this topic. We have all of our speakers here. We apologize. We had a little bit of a technical difficulty, but we're all here right now. So today we're going to be talking about using certification to grow your business. And so you're going to hear from some business experts in the field, as I would like to call them, as well as our team in talking about how best to leverage and utilize certification. It definitely is a tool that you should be using now more than ever. With that, my name is Elisa Joseph, and I am Director of Programs for the U.S. Black Chambers. And we are providing a series of webinars just like this one that you are going to see today to really help our businesses navigate through this pandemic and to come out more successful on the other side. So this has been a great platform for us to be able to share content from a number of sources, but also looking to really help level the playing field for all of us as everyone is having pretty much the same difficulties. Black businesses are experiencing it at a higher level. And so we really want to be able to help you with tools, resources, information, websites, digital marketing, whatever it takes to really help you not only navigate, but grow your revenue. So I'd love to start today with introducing our speakers. Our first speaker is Brandy Butler, and she is the president and CEO of ADC Management Solutions. As a women-owned small business, she provides management consulting and temporary staffing services to state, local, and federal clients nationally. She's got a number of years, over 20 years in the human resources industry. As an accomplished professional and marketer, her vision and her expertise has helped to drive her company since its inception in 2003. As an executive, she leverages tools of marketing, operations, finance, and overall quality control to keep her business as a leader of the pack. She is a member of an exclusive group of 100 CEOs called Smart CEOs, Smart 100, has been a recipient of many awards, including the Washington Business Journal's 2012 Minority Business Leader Award. And so we welcome Brandy to the conversation today.
Well, good afternoon, and Alyssa, thank you so much for having me today.
Absolutely.
I'm excited to have this conversation because certifications have actually helped me tremendously in my business. I started my business in 2003, so it's really helped me grow my business over time.
That's great. And we're really looking to hear some great tips from you, things that we don't necessarily hear in conversations if you're going to a regular certification seminar. So that's what we're all about, is how do we share those tips and tricks and ideas that help to really put our businesses over the, closer to being over the edge in terms of competition, in terms of people searching for them and looking to do business with them. Next, I'd like to introduce Sheila Eldridge. Sheila is the president and CEO of Miles Ahead Entertainment and Broadcasting, and has more than 30 years of experience in the fields of broadcasting, corporate communications, entertainment, marketing, and public relations. A graduate of Howard University School of Communication, she began her professional career at WHUR-FM. She then, after spending time in corporate America, started her own firm, Orchid Communications, which had services in Los Angeles, Atlanta, and New Jersey, and had a really wonderful stable of clients and associates, including Janet Jackson, Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis, In Vogue, Yolanda Adams, to name a few. She rebranded as Miles Ahead Entertainment, became a multimedia operation specializing in hands-on personalized marketing and public relations strategies. that really help to create synergy between consumers and brands. And so with that, I'd love to thank Ms. Sheila Eldridge for joining us today. You there, Sheila?
You're on mute. That's all.
There you go. You're on mute.
There we go. Okay.
There you go.
Sorry. Subject I'm pretty well versed on. I've been certified for 27 years. So when I first was certified, it was quite different from what it is now, but it has been an extremely useful tool. When I was in the entertainment industry, didn't really matter so much, but as I moved into more corporate and government work, I found that certification was just essential in terms of helping to grow the business. So I'm always excited to have a conversation about what it can do and what it looks like. So thank you.
Well, absolutely. And our final speaker today is Ronald Busby Jr. He is the managing partner of BuyBlack.us, and that is a platform being used by US Black Chambers to help our businesses in the forefront. Not only in terms of search and location, but to really create a very robust platform that'll be leveraged for a lot of other uses. And I'm not going to steal his thunder. I'm going to let Ron just introduce himself quickly before we get started in our conversation.
Really appreciate it. I'm really looking forward to talking a little about how the US Black Chambers is really trying to reinvent the idea and some of the barriers to entry for certification. And how do we actually democratize some of that access? A lot of the opportunities that are coming from these spaces, but aren't always easy for people to be able to get into. So looking forward to talking a little bit about the solutions that we're bringing to the fore and how a lot of these experts and people that have this experience can kind of speak to how we can hopefully simplify it and make this a more seamless experience.
You know, and to that end, Ron, I think that's what it's really all about, is trying to make this process not seem so daunting. To also, a lot of times most people think you have to be in a certain industry, and I would venture to guess to say that there are industries that probably have more opportunities than other, like in construction and the like. But I was really pleased to have both Sheila and Brandy here because their businesses have a combination of both service as well as some product slash staffing components to them, which are also needed not only by government, but also by corporate entities. When we think about certification in and of itself, I want all of you tuning in today to know that we're not just talking about what's happening from a government agency perspective. We're also looking to prepare you for what you would need to do to be within the corporate supply chain. So all of these tools are looking at, you know, how do you minimize the work that you do by having the right information and materials in front of you when you're going through that process. Once you've gone through the process and been certified, how do you then manage it from there? What are the kinds of things that you need to be doing? And then finally, we're going to talk to you about something exciting from BuyBlack.us that we hope will also level the playing field as we think about certification. So with that, again, this is such a great conversation. You know, I've put up this question, why certify? And all of you can sort of read the screen, so we're not gonna go through that, but I do want you to be thinking about it from a couple of different directions. What does it really mean? How do you use it as a marketing tool? What does the bid and proposal submission process look like? How do you leverage it for supply chain contracts? And then finally, the idea of not just a diversity certification process, but a Black certification process. So that is a lot of what we're going to cover today. So I'm going to get started first with Brandy. Brandy, can you tell us how long your company's been certified and what difference it's made in your business growth, and maybe give an example or two?
Absolutely. Like I said, I started my business in 2003, and I think my business was very unique in that I started my business and I got certified in the 8A program, the 8A SBA program, and I got certified very early before my business had matured in 2 years, because usually there's a 2-year minimum before you can even apply. So I got a waiver. I had been running my business for about 1.5 years, got the certification maybe right before the 2-year mark. but my business was in place. I had the capacity, I had the staff. So I had the things in place in order for me to market to the federal government. But I knew my audience was the federal government. And that's one of the reasons I chose that certification. So I chose the 8A certification and the HubZone certification right away. Those were the easiest two. Now, the 8A certification is a very cumbersome certification. It requires a lot of information. But once you have it, it gives you a competitive advantage with the federal customer. Not only is it a vehicle, but it allows them to award contracts to you directly as a 8A company. So it helped me propel my company from 0 to almost 15 million in about 4 years, but I knew how to market it. So it's important to know how to market that 8A vehicle. And it's also important to network and let those customers know that you are an 8A company and what your services are. The one thing that I will say is that make sure that your services are top notch, but you use that as a vehicle just to get in the door, because that's not going to help you continue to grow your business. It's a door opener. But if you don't, if you have it, great, but know how to use it. That's what I would say about that.
I think that's really key. It's there's this idea of getting in the door, but then when you kick through that door, performance matters as well.
Absolutely, absolutely. And the thing about the federal government is once you're in one agency and you have a proven track record, they will continue to refer you. They will continue to give you great past performance, and past performance is key in going after future contracts. And that was critical for me, getting that past performance, having the vehicle one, getting that past performance and growing the business.
So, with that, Sheila, I'd love to sort of ask you, in running your company for over 30 years, you have used certification as well. As we know, I think, Brandy said something really important, which was she was strategic about which certification program she went after based on what it is that she had within her company, and what she felt that she could do, and understanding who her target audience was, as she mentioned, which was the federal government. And with a bevy of certifications across government and corporate, depending on the city you live in, there could be a local, county, you've got state certifications, federal certifications, women-owned, economically disadvantaged, disabled veterans. So what's been really interesting is you can sign up for everything, but it doesn't work unless you understand who your customer is, you understand how you want to project and market to yourself about your company, and you are pretty strategic about what it is that you're going after. So Sheila, can you talk a little bit about sort of the upsides, some of the downsides, and maybe an example of what was a challenge and a triumph for you once you got your designations?
Well, my certifications were more initially on the corporate side. So, the Minority Council, and they were more local and regional. Versus government contracts. I didn't start moving into certification with government contracts to maybe 10 years ago, but initially it was more on the corporate, the Minority Council. The upside is that, and this might sound a little crazy, but I tell people it's true. When you're starting your business and you want to get certified, one of the things it does that it keeps you honest, okay? And that you always have to have your taxes done. You always have to meet the requirements of the certification. And many times when you're an entrepreneur and you're just starting out, usually in your first 5 years, you're trying to figure out how to do business. And then you're trying to figure out what your business is and then what your niche audience is. So I always found that being certified kind of was very helpful in terms of just learning and growing with information on how to run a business because of the programs that they do offer. And you've been vetted. When you've been certified, you've been vetted. I'm not sure there's really, quite honestly, a downside. I mean, the downside is that the certifications are cumbersome, in that in many cases, they are what people feel to be a bit intrusive in terms of your business, depending on how your corporation is set up. But you need that. You need that transparency as you grow, especially in more corporate, looking at more corporate business and of course government contracts. So I don't see there's a downside. I think there's a side that people don't ordinarily think about, which is an advocacy side. I had a situation with a major corporation that has a partnership with the council, And I went to the council with my situation, and they intervened, and it made a big difference on doing business moving forward with that corporation. So, I think there are a lot of benefits of being certified, as well, in terms of helping to grow your business. And because many of the corporate certifications have relationships with corporate America, it can be very helpful.
And one of the reasons I like talking about this topic in particular is I feel it is a preparation experience that helps you not only in certifying with local government or a corporate supplier, but also as relates to you being able to get the capital that you need because you've already provided all that information. And so a lender coming to you with you being very clear about your financial statements, your tax returns and the like. To me, it sort of gives you that that sort of backdoor office operational piece where you can come in with a mix of opportunities, whether it be business development or whether it be seeking capital.
You've kind of gone through that first vetting process, would you say? Mm-hmm.
Yep, I would, absolutely. It's always good to have had others state, the benefits and the glory of you, as opposed to you trying to introduce it yourself, right? So Ron, I have a quick question for you. We've been so excited about the work that's going on with BuyBlack.us. And with it being a platform that goes beyond just, I can use it to search for, a certain kind of business or certain kind of service that I want. Tell us, about what this platform means, what it will look like in the future, and how people can, how easy it is to start the process.
Yeah, so I think there are two parts. And so in terms of sort of the certification piece that I think is really relevant right now, we are currently building a certification experience that really builds on and speaks to a lot of the things that Brandy and Sheila were talking about, i.e., I've already certified in 10 other places. If I want to be known as a Black-owned business here, I shouldn't have to go and fill out the same information, provide that same documentation. How can we actually take the certification you did in the New Jersey Department of Transportation and use some of that information to go ahead and populate out information that's here and sort of make these things less redundant. And so that's something that we are already working on and really created a really thoughtful process there. Folks that want to already kind of learn a little bit more about what we're doing there can go to certification.buyblack.us, and you can actually go ahead and sign up to join the wait list for folks. We already have people that are trying to sort of get certified through this process. And so if you want to, this is something that we're already trying to sort of test out with folks in local communities and really understand how business owners are using it. So we'll reach out to you about your feedback, about the experience as we start opening it up, but certification.buyblack.us. But in terms of the actual tool itself, hey, what does it mean to be able to be searchable, to be found as a Black-owned business in a place that really means something and has value? That is the next piece of this. So we really have found that there are places that you can find a Black business that does hair care, that does restaurants, but how do you find both B2B, B2G, B2C companies in one place? That is something that our corporate partners are looking to be able to find Black businesses, not just find, Black restaurants. Our Black restaurants are looking to spend money with other, Black vendors that sell at that scale to them. And so we really thought about this process of buying Black as a truly comprehensive and so larger picture. What does it mean for, when we spell it BYBLACK, it's really about authorship. It's really about the idea of what does it mean for our companies to be built by Black people? What does it mean for our entrepreneurs to be empowered by Black folks? What does it mean for us to be at the center of those things? And so it being by Black people is a big part of what we're talking about here. And so that element is something that we're going to be bringing out, in the next couple of months into February. You'll be seeing a really beneficial search experience that really captures that holistic view around, what Black businesses are doing. And so something you can do now besides just certify is you can actually onboard your business today. So you start to begin to add in your information, what are your regular customers? What are, is your business based? What is your general category of business? Add a photo, add some information about you, and we will actually start to have those listings up in February so that you can be searchable there. And so I think that's a really exciting piece of the US Black Chambers and Buy Black, trying to be thoughtful, not just about what we do today, but how do we think, generationally about what are tools and solutions that are digitally focused and really help bring the barriers to entry down for Black folks that have already done the certification process, that want to be able to get certified in the future, that want access to opportunities. How do we ultimately bring a digital platform that sort of solves for that?
No, I think that's such a great point. I was, all of you are looking at the slides that are here. We didn't necessarily want to speak directly to them. We're referring to them as we're having this conversation. But this one slide that I have here where it asks about key information. This information is pretty much the same across the board for any certification process that you go through. There are differences, some processes are a little bit more lengthy than others. This is really a lot of the key information. And I think what Ron is also sharing is the ability to have this in one place. Right now, typically you should have it in one place in one folder, on your computer so that you can always reference it. But the ability of having that flexibility of doing it kind of one time and then maybe being able to add a couple of things, but not having to repeat yourself over and over for 10, 12 different applications, I think is really a game changer in the space. And to actually have one that's going to be Black companies certified as opposed to just within the diversity pool of companies certified, I think helps us stand above the rest. I do want to mention to you all, please, as you're hearing this conversation, please feel free to send us questions. We will have a Q&A at the end of this, but I'm going to keep moving because I really want us to have a great dialogue around this. So these next few questions are going to be for everyone here. I wanted folks to know about you initially, and then I want us to really take this top line and really seek out, the experience that you all have. So we know, usually there's an agency or there's some program procurement manager who's, managing that approval process. What can you share how best it is to leverage the relationships among key procurement officers, particularly when you're looking for contracts? And has that relationship been helpful in other ways, whether it be, marketing or oversight or recognition? I would love to hear your perspectives from all of you, on this particular area of certification, whether that be government or corporate.
Well, this is Sheila. We don't do a lot of government contracts. They're more state or, or corporate. So working with the procurement office is a little different, quite different in that arena than it is working, in the government sector. So Brandy would probably be able to speak much better to that. I would say though, the importance of staying in contact and being aware of the diversity initiatives that corporations or the companies are initiating, so that you are in that mix in that list when RFPs come out. That's very important. So I think keeping that communications with the diversity offices at major corporations has been very useful for us.
And what does that look like for you, Sheila? Is it meetings? Is it emails? What tactics do you use to ensure that you're keeping that up?
Meetings. It used to be conference calls or meetings.
Right.
Now there are a lot of Zooms. And now it's just a lot of RFPs that are very well delineated out, what they're looking for. Rarely do I find, at least I'm just working with the last 7 months, because the industry has shifted and changed so much, in the last several months, given the pandemic. But it's a lot of RFPs, and then knowing how to write them and staying within the structure of those is essential. So it has changed, in the last 7 months.
Mm-hmm. Brandy, I'm seeing, particularly in the government space, a lot more. There used to be sort of this idea that you sort of submitted sometimes, via mail as opposed to online, that you had to have, pre-conference workshops where you had to appear in person. How is that shifting? What are you seeing in terms of that shift, and how have you managed your relationships with the procurement officers that you deal with?
So this year has been a very unique year for marketing and business development. Typically, we would attend industry events, we would attend individual agency outreach events, and to get in with the OSDBO, which is the small business designated person. And those people usually advocate for you once they know your business, they know you're certified, they know who your target audience is, and they make introductions for you to the program officers. And then it's up to you to keep monitoring the different websites, the e-buys, the government contracting sites, to see where the opportunities are, so that you can stay in front of that and you can potentially kind of create the opportunity for yourself with that program person.
So with that, and I'm just thinking in terms of, there's not a one size fits all for this, right? Everybody's a little bit different. Have you set up a system for yourself? Because obviously you've, and particularly in the 8A piece, you're larger, you've been doing this for a long time. And so I'm sure you have folks who can help monitor it. But as a one person or two person shop, have you, set up appointments on your calendar to keep you abreast? Do you have certain days of the week that you might be searching for solicitations, or, what are some of the unique ways that can keep a business owner doing this work without going out of their minds?
You really have to have a designated person, because you can't do it yourself. And to do the business development and the relationships, you really need someone to manage the certification process in your office, or someone just designated to it, because you need to keep all of your documents in one place. It's so much easier to recertify than to have to go through the certification process all over again. And usually they ask for 1 or 2 documents every year to recertify. So it's a much simpler process. In terms of identifying opportunities, there are different databases. Like I said, there is GSA Advantage. You have your GSA schedules. You can identify opportunities there. There's eBuy. There are opportunities there, but you have to set aside that time to actually review and look at these websites, and also stay in contact with your customers to see what opportunities might be coming down the pipeline. A lot of the agencies have forecasts, but that's probably changed a lot this year because everything's changed. So I don't know how accurate the forecasts are, but a lot of times they have forecasts, and by reviewing those forecasts, you can see what opportunities may be coming in the future.
Yeah, I put a list up for folks. These are just sort of top certification agencies nationally. These are kind of the big names there, but they go both across corporate as well as government. Within them, there are lots of sort of agencies, across the board as well. And so we will send out just a list of some of the links to this after this call today, but wanted you all to get a sense, because they each operate a little bit differently. And I think relationship is really key. Have you all ever done anything relative to, from a marketing perspective, in terms of writing, blog posts that might appear on their boards, or pushing out your content, via their social media or other sites? Has that been something, as we all need to go a little bit more digital this year, has that been something that's been helpful in the work that you're doing?
I haven't found that from my business standpoint to be helpful. What I have found out to be extremely helpful are the webinars. The new, new business, new strategies. I found webinars to be extremely helpful in terms of looking at new ways to identify business.
That's a great tip. It's a great tip. And Ron, on your end, one of the reasons I was so glad that Brandy talked about the need to have a concentrated focus on it, because, as business owners, I try to stress to them, we're trying to work on our businesses, not in our businesses all the time. And so, in the conversations you've had with corporate leaders, particularly as relates to this, what are some of the tips and things that they're sharing with you about either how they want to use it, that might be helping you as you're planning out the platform, or what you might be hearing from businesses in terms of, there's so much paperwork, I need to figure out how to streamline what I'm doing.
I think, well, there are probably maybe 2 or 3 ideas that come to mind. One is businesses, just actually finding the businesses. There's a lot of excuse. I can't find, a Black-owned business that does this. I have a goal for X millions of dollars with Black business this year, but I seem to not be able to find it. So, there's that gap, and the certification agencies that currently exist don't have the number of businesses that they're currently looking for to do exactly what they're looking for. So, there is an excuse that currently exists around, I can't find them, therefore it's not really on me, it's on someone else. And I think that is really what we're trying to do, is say, if we can certify Black-owned businesses in a way that's quick, that is easy, that is manageable, then that we sort of close the gap there. So I think that's one of the pieces. I can't find them, and so I think that's why we're encouraging people to start looking at this as a way to close this gap, and hopefully even provide people the ability to get these other certifications as well, because we do recognize they have value and they have their own connections and cachet. I think the other piece is businesses that can do what they're looking for, size and scale. So I think, it's, what does it mean to be business ready? And so, I think there are businesses that might sort of service a little bit of what they're looking for, but, they have specific NAICS codes they want to work with and do specific kinds of things. Do you end up lining up with those things, and can you service that? So I think that's a big piece of, as well as connecting to some of these things in a more meaningful way, is actually having your information matching up with the requests and the demands they have, and making sure that you're aware of how people are asking for those things. And so I think those are what I'm hearing often. And I think beyond that, I think these companies really do have an appetite to solve some of these problems. They want to do business with Black folks, but they're looking to be creative with that. And so I think for us as a chamber of commerce, working with your local chamber of commerce and also working with the National Chamber of Commerce is going to give you a robust solution around that. Like, hey, I actually want to be able to, at the local level, where they're doing construction, where they're doing opportunities, I want to be involved and connected there. But also at that national level, there are opportunities that are happening at the government space, in regional places that are being made out of decisions in DC that you can ultimately participate in and be a part of. And so I think it is really being a part of different communities that have different opportunities and connections.
Yeah, I think that's right, Ron. I'll share, this happened probably a couple of years ago, but as you know, in California, they were looking at expanding the highway system, for example. And we did have some agencies come to us asking for Black-owned businesses that we were able to give them, because again, folks couldn't find them. So we were able to provide those names. But what also came up, and I'd love to hear from Sheila and Brandy on this as well, also comes up is sometimes we have to create size and scale in the minute, not try to grow it over time, right? So whether you have to team with someone, whether there's a subcontracting relationship, whether, we create a joint venture, or, it might even be, purchasing a company that has, a set of skills that you need. Have any of you gone through that? Because I would think, Ron, to your point of really trying to satisfy the needs of larger corps who sometimes really are looking for somebody with a little bit more size and scale. I would assume that would be an important piece, and some of what Buy Black.us can help with as well. So do you all have thoughts about that?
Well, I think strategic partnerships are just key, and have worked well for contracting for some larger contracts, over the years. I also think serving as a sub can be useful too, to some bigger corporations, but definitely forming strategic partnerships to go in to, bid on a piece of business, we found to be quite useful, especially on the corporate side. And even on the state side, just doing some business on some state contracts, in terms of escalating. I think that the whole pandemic and with everything that's happened, people have had to move very quickly into the virtual space, and figure out programs and platforms that work well for clients, to move clients into the whole virtual space as well. That has accelerated the business.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's been great because we've had to partner, form some strategic partnerships with production companies in order to be able to do that.
Yeah, I mean, I would think sometimes having to go from 5 people to 100 people would be challenging if you don't have that capability. You can't always finance yourself out of that.
Right.
Brandy, I know you're providing staffing to people and a lot of other services. What are you seeing?
As a
in your
staffing
industry?
company, what we do is we ramp up. That's like our how we support. That's the value add that we give to our customers. And a lot of times, large private companies are looking for partners to go after opportunities. And what they'll do is they'll go to the MBE directory and they'll say, "Oh, I'm looking for a company who's MBE certified to fulfill this 10% or this 35% participation." And we have forged so many relationships like that, and we've gone after opportunities, have been very successful, and continued those partnerships for future opportunities.
That's great. That's all great advice. Ron, I do want to ask, I know you've mentioned that next year certification might start. What is sort of the strategy and some timing around it? Do you have some thought about what that will look like? Because everybody who's on the call, if you haven't done it yet, you need to go to buyblack.us and at least put your profile in and then get yourself on the wait list with certification.buyblack.us.
Yeah.
Ron, thoughts?
Yeah, no, I think timing is definitely key, and trying to capture the moment is really important for us. It's a chicken and egg sort of thing, right? We've got corporates that are saying, hey, we are invested in you all solving this problem. So go out there and find those Black businesses. I think we're trying to touch Black businesses and say, hey, look, let us know that you're interested in this process, and we will start to actually open this up to you and let you all in and into this. We've had thousands of businesses that have already onboarded their business to be found on this tool. But that next level of that value add around the certification is the thing that we're releasing over the coming weeks, where I'm really excited to see the kind of organic uptick that we can get from folks, because it really requires people to be invested and interested in their own right. And so, for us, we have to show and demonstrate that value is there by virtue of the folks that we're partnering with, right? We talk to Chase and they say, hey, this is something that we think is important and valuable. You all should definitely go do this. We need to actually end up bringing the folks like that are here on this call that are interested in this. We're excited about them being our advocates, telling the Black businesses they work with, hey, you know what, this is something that I'm using to be able to potentially find new opportunities. Having the companies that you as a Black-owned business work with say, hey, look, this is actually what I'm using to be found as a Black-owned business as well. And I encourage those companies to come to us and say, look, we want to partner with the US Black Chambers and be a sponsor and be an advocate of this. I think that's another way that we sort of create that network of value across the spectrum. And we're doing that, day in and day out with our chambers of commerce and their businesses. But I think there is something that we want to empower our Black businesses as well to invest socially in the value of certifying as a Black-owned business. And then ultimately that empowers and makes the value of this tool and this system, more meaningful for the folks that we go out and advertise to and say, hey, look, use this to stop, having those excuses around not finding Black businesses.
Right, because I think it's on both sides, right? It's sometimes it's us saying we can't find a business to partner with. Now we've got a tool to be able to do that. And then it's also corps or others looking to do business where now we can have a platform for them to be able to do that. So in closing, we will take some questions, but I'd love for you all, I always love to give people some tips that are easy for them to do right in the moment to get moving and get started on something. So can each of you share, 2 to 3 tips that for people who might be thinking about certification or been unsure, or what it might take to be successful in the certification space?
Well, I'll say that I think I probably said this already, but certifications are a door opener. You still need to make sure that your company can support whatever effort you're going after, but to have the certification is just going to open the door for you, and it's going to open multiple doors, and you have to network and you have to work those certifications. Secondly, I would say make sure you know your audience, because different types of businesses may require different types of certifications, or different certifications may work better for other types of companies than others. So know your business and know what certifications will work for you. And then 3, stay on top of your certifications. Like I said before, it's so much easier to recertify than to go through this process all over again. So those are my 3 tips.
Thank you. Sheila?
I would say I agree with those tips. I'd add that use the resource. If you're going to go through the process of being certified, and I call it in that membership, use the resources. There are a lot of that are available to you. Network, and that's even more now, via a lot of the virtual and the webinars and information that's being disseminated. That is essential. And then know your audience as you begin to look at, because there are various, as you can see, certifications that are better for targeting certain types of business. So just know which certifications are going to render the return that you're looking for in terms of developing new business outreach and contacts.
Thank you so much. And Ron, what are your thoughts?
So I think, one is feel free to, and we encourage you to go ahead and onboard your business at buyblack.us and start there as one of the immediate things that we can start to do, and we'll definitely get you all ready on the certification piece. I think staying involved with your local Chamber of Commerce and sort of that National Chamber of Commerce is a really great way to today be able to build relationships, build engagement, have conversations, and really be able to fill gaps that are happening both locally and nationally. And I think those are the two things that I really want to encourage people to just think about as solutions that have value adds. And I think if you see the value in your local Chamber of Commerce, I think you will start to see the value in what we're doing digitally as well. And so I think that's just a really exciting way that we're trying to be both cutting edge and speak to the problems that are currently today.
Well, thank you all. I've got some questions for you. So if you wouldn't mind, let me just pull a couple of them up. The first one is, this is from Maxine Pierre. Is the MBE certification, does it still hold weight? She doesn't hear mention of it too much anymore. I mean, a lot of times I know whether you're DBE or MBE or SBE or whatever it is, it's all the different E's at the end, right? All the different enterprises, but has that mattered? To me, it's been more about the actual certification as opposed to the shorthand for what it is. What do you all see out there?
I think it definitely still holds weight.
Yes, I agree.
Totally.
Yes, I agree.
And now probably more than before, and moving forward in 2021, it's going to be part of the vetting process. So
shouldn't people be leading with that as opposed to, usually we had it buried somewhere. I'm sort of seeing it as an opportunity to lead with it, since we do have so many more people interested in wanting to use the services and products of Black-owned businesses.
I think that the MBE certification is a major certification to have. And like I said before, all of these large companies, they go to the directories and they're looking for different types of businesses to partner. And if that requirement is still mandated, that 35% or whatever the percentage is, those companies need to have a partner to bring on the team for them. So you need to, so I agree that it's definitely major.
And I think that's true. I think if you're not on a list, it makes it more difficult for you to get your name out there. And so at least having that as an initial place that people are tending to go to, I think is really important. LaShawn Clark has a question. I'll get back to you privately, but I do want to sort of share, sort of paraphrase around a little bit. When you all are writing proposals, you're looking at RFPs, what are some key things that are key guidelines that you try to observe as you're doing it? I find less is more sometimes, but would love to hear from you about that.
Follow the requirements. First and foremost, follow the requirements of the RFP, because you can get eliminated if you don't follow the requirements. So I would, start there. And some are, and that will dictate, I think, the approach. There's always the standard that's there for the RFP, but I think it's directed kind of by the parameters and the requirements, that are associated with the RFP.
And I'll just add that the evaluation criteria is critical, because you need to make sure that you meet that criteria, if not exceed it, but at least be able to meet that criteria before you decide to bid on that RFP.
Mm-hmm. I think earlier as we were talking, I was talking a little bit about leveraging the work that you're putting into the certification process for financing that you need down the road, right? And in talking about this, we have a question from Arana Kadu, and her question is, she's won a contract. Her work's going to begin shortly. She's obviously, is looking at payroll and what needs to happen there, and has not had success from one bank that she's gone to. The one thing that I always counsel everybody, and part of this is, and I'd love to hear your all thoughts about it. The first is, there's times where we have to look to get the financing before we actually need it. So that's one note. But I would also say, there are other, just because you got, didn't get what you needed from one bank doesn't mean that there aren't others. There are community development financial institutions out there. There are Black banks out there. So I'd love to kind of work with you offline on that and sort of hear your story. But you all thoughts about, about financing and what it means if you've got, as we know, a lot of times that 15-day payment thing doesn't always kick in. It's usually more like 45, 60, sometimes 90 days before you get your money from your client. Talk about what challenge that may have had for you and how you've had to overcome that. Get inside, Sheila.
I'm blessed. For the last 15 years, that hadn't been an issue. Before that, and look, the last 7 months has not been easy. I always say that all money is not good money, but you always, and that's the other thing about being certified, is that you should on a continuous basis be raising money, for a contract that might come a year, 2 years, or even 6 months, or for a rainy day. So on an ongoing basis, I'm always watching where there might be some interesting funding that makes sense from an, interest standpoint and everything, but you should constantly be raising money for that situation where you get a contract that you need to meet that contract in terms of the financing, either with staffing or equipment, whatever that might be. But just know that all contracts are not necessarily the best contracts, for your business as you're growing.
I think that's true. Sometimes it looks like, something is coming on the horizon, and it puts you in a poorer financial condition than where you want to be. Or you've either priced yourself in a way where, you might be low bid, but you still can't carry out the business. And so I think you really have to think about how best to position your company, really understand what your costs are, know what you're going to need before you have to start the project. I have to say this, I'm a former banker. Banks are usually more willing to help you before you actually need it than when you need it. And when you need it, there's not the quickness or promptness based on your timeline as to their timeline. So, keep pushing at it. Try not to get yourself involved with factoring and all that kind of stuff. All that does is over leverage you, so that when you're trying to really finance something for, a major project you have it at a traditional bank, they're not necessarily looking at it in the way that you would like. So as I said, we're here. You see these resources that we have here. We've got some great things coming up. In addition to, Ron's talked about buyblack.us. We also have been working with Google, and so we're excited about that partnership. They're also providing virtual badges for you. So if you go in and change the attributes within your Google profile under My Business, you'll be able to be identified as a Black-owned business, and that will help in terms of the search engine optimization for your business. So that's another solution. Also, we have resources with them, with Google as well. So we've got, a series of webinars, and they're usually like 15, 20 minutes that they have within their resources that we would love to share with you and work with you on. This is one of our partners, UPS. Right now, as you know, as the holiday season is coming, if you have products you need to get out, they're offering discounts in addition to 15-minute free consultations to give you solutions other than just shipping. So that's definitely something you want to do. Let me see, what else do we have going on? And then we have a relationship with Chase where we have a couple of different modules that we're presenting. Our newest one will happen on November 30th. One that we're presenting next week is really around moving through the pandemic. The one that will be presented on the 30th, we're really focused on getting capital resources. And that basically is talking about lending at the end of the day. And then on December 19th, we will have another session. We're going to do that with Gusto. So we're going to talk around payroll services, but we're also going to talk about strategic planning for 2021, in addition to some other topics that will come up as well. So I want to thank our guest for being here with us today. Thank you so much for all that you do. Continued success in your businesses. Have a wonderful, wonderful holiday. Stay safe. For all of you who have viewed it, we really, really thank you for joining us. We couldn't continue to do this without your support. As I said, you can see here as to where we have a variety of different resources. You can also reach us at programs@usblackchambers.org if you have specific questions. I've seen a couple of the chats, so we'll get back to folks on that as well. But please know that we're here to serve you. We can connect you with our local chambers. We can work with you directly on a situation that you might have and find available resources for you. So we're here to serve. Again, thank you again for joining us today. Have a great rest of the week, a wonderful Thanksgiving holiday. Continue to follow us and participate in a variety of events and things that we have. Have a good day. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks so much, y'all.
Thank you.